Welcome to this video lesson on letters, memos, and emails. The first thing we need to know is what is the difference between these three. A memo is a document sent within a company or organization. It is a hard copy generally, not electronic like an email, although the format looks very similar to that of an email. Notice that the subject in this example is very specific, which is great for busy readers. And this example is a transmittal memo, which is a type of memo used to accompany a document. It helps the readers know what that document is that you're sending and what you expect them to do with it. Notice there's no signature at the end of the memo. On the other hand, a letter is a document sent to someone in a different organization or company or just outside of your company. So that's why we have your letterhead at the top and the address for whoever you are sending it to inside. Notice that letters do have a signature at the bottom. Email is a form of communication we're all very familiar with. Emails are being used more and more to send informal and also formal messages and information for businesses. Notice this subject line is not very specific, so it's not a good example of what we should be doing as professionals. We should make our subject lines very clear as to what the entire purpose of that email is that we're sending. People receive so many emails these days. It's important that your subject line stands out and contains the important details. There'll be more tips coming up on how we can make our emails even more effective. Okay, so to recap, there's some basic features that are the same in these three documents. We have the header, which is all the information at the top, a salutation, although they are not used for memos, they are used for letters and email. There is an introduction, which states your main points. Body paragraphs include what readers need to know and nothing else. And a conclusion restates your main points and again tells your readers what you expect them to do with that information. Also, they end with a signature, except memos do not. It's important to also note that each company has its own unique protocols and procedures, so your company may send a memo that has a slightly different format. For example, this is a memo of information sent in each week at a company, and notice the format looks nothing like the traditional model of a memo. But this traditional format is what we're going to be using throughout this class, and it is still widely used to send important information within organizations. Okay, so let's move on to email etiquette, and we'll discuss a few tips here, and then this conversation will carry on into our next class lesson. From my experience, there's a few really important email tips that I would like to share. Always spell check and proofread. Don't just click the spell check button. Use your human eyes to look for other things that may be important to improve on before clicking the send button. Also, if it's a really important document or email that you're sending, have someone else look at it because you really don't want to make a mistake. Also, set up an email signature so that it comes on automatically and people have your contact information. If you need help setting up an email signature with Microsoft Outlook for the school email, I can help you with that. It's a little bit complicated, but it's important that you have your contact information. Also, make sure you have the correct contact information at the bottom of your emails. Just really check this. Make sure as you're setting it up that you don't make a typo. Also, as I've mentioned before, detailed subject lines are going to help your busy readers. Can't stress that enough. Now, it's also important to explain what it is you are attaching if you are attaching a document, so the readers know what you're sending them and what you expect them to do with it. Also, make sure that you actually attach the document. Gotta double check that before you click send. Okay, mentioned salutation, so the question is, what is the best way to start an email? Well, there's a few different ways you can do it. Name, dear, hello. Those are all considered formal and professional. If you know someone already, you can say hi, especially if it's not a really formal, important message that you're sending them. But please never, ever, ever do anything weird like hey or yo. Even when you know someone well, if you're working with them in a professional setting, you should stick to these ones up here, and you won't go wrong. Email versus letter versus phone call. When do you know which to send? There's no black or white answer on this one. Just consider your schedule, their schedule, and what the time frame is. If something's really important, it's great to get a letter in the mail, but if you don't have time for that, an email is completely professional these days to do that. Contact information. Consider the information that you actually have. That will limit the options of what you can do. Also, think about the amount of detail that you need to give to your readers. Phone calls are great because they're personal, but if you need to explain a difficult concept, a visual, or just being able to use more words explained through either a letter or an email may be more effective. So sometimes it's good to call. For example, if you are trying to ask someone either through a cold call or someone you already know and have worked with, if you're trying to ask them to purchase advertising or purchase a product, you may call them with the initial request, so you give them a real personal hello, and then you may provide more detail in a follow-up email, and you may tell them that on the phone. Time frame. Think about how quickly you need a response, because that will limit whether you're able to send a letter, which will take more time. If you are doing something really fast-paced, you need to call because they might not be able to check their email, or they may be slower at email. You'll learn how people work and their preferences. And I'm sure that these are things that we've already experienced in our email experience as students, and so just things to keep in mind as we continue to email, because it's a very important part of business communication, but it's not the only one. Letters and phone calls still have their purposes. Okay, follow-up. How soon do we need to follow up to an email when someone has not responded? The rule is 24 hours. Wait 24 hours before you send the email again, because they may just be busy and they may be thinking about it, or maybe they really didn't see it. But waiting 24 hours is a good rule so that you don't seem too anxious or pushy. Now, with this, consider that weekends are different depending in the specific industry or company, and also depending on that individual. Some people do like to check their emails over weekends and will get back to you right away, but others do not. So weekends don't count in that 24 hours. So if you send someone an email on a Friday, you may need to wait till the end of Monday or Tuesday morning to follow up again. Calling is one way that you can follow up on an email. Some people might consider that to be a little bit pushy if you've waited exactly 24 hours and then send them a phone call, but that really depends on what it is you're emailing them about and who they are, what their preferences are, phone calls versus emails. So there's no hard answer here, but the only thing that is certain is this 24-hour rule has been widely accepted in business etiquette today. Speaking about business etiquette and email etiquette specifically, we have an email etiquette activity that we will be doing in class this next class period. So I have some tips to share with you that I found from Inc.com, and these are from business entrepreneurs. Then they've provided some tips, more specific, more interesting tips on how to best use email and what to do, what not to do. So there's 25 tips. I want you to read through or skim through all of them to get a sense of what these tips are. There's a link here in the video, but also provided in the blog portion of this post. Randomly pick one of these 25 tips to master, to understand, and be ready to present. So you can use a random number generator so that you truly randomly pick one of them. You can use follow this link, and just by following that link it'll give you a number 1 through 25, and you can use that number to pick your tip. Be prepared to explain the tip that you've picked with a hypothetical or real-life example of how you would either use or not use that particular thing that's being discussed in the tip. I hope this makes sense. If you have any questions, please send me an email, and I will see you in class.